Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from Practical Will 7046 and says, Am I the arsehole for calling off my engagement because my ex-fiance invited my dad to our wedding? I, 29 female, met my ex, 32 male, in college. He knew all about my troubled relationship with my dad. Growing up, my dad struggled with addiction, cheated on my mum, and left us in debt. I only learned about his emotional and physical abuse towards my mum and siblings when I was much older. As the youngest, my memories are fuzzy, so family hid this from me, thinking it was best because they wanted me to have a good relationship with him. My dad wasn't actively involved in my life and we didn't see each other often, even though my mum let him come by whenever he wanted. He would promise to take me out on weekends, but he'd never show up. When we did go out, he would yell at servers and threaten to beat/kill them. He'd race strangers and go 100 miles an hour with me in the car, and he'd always criticize my mum to me. I have so many stories, but two extreme ones are the times he tackled a boy my age for talking to me and started beating him. He left him bleeding on the floor and dragged me to the car, crying and shaking. The other is the time he took me out for my 15th birthday, like my actual birthday, and he abandoned me at the mall. It was about 3 cities over from where I lived and I didn't know what to do, so I decided to try and take the bus home. I got lost and called my best friend. She and her older brother went to pick me up. That was the last time I saw him. The crazy thing was that at the end of each visit, he'd tell me to wait in the car for hours while he went to his friend's house. I just listened to music. It would maybe be 2 to 3 hours of us hanging out and another 4 to 5 hours of me sitting in a car. My mum thought we'd be hanging out all day, but obviously not. Despite my dad's behavior, we still spoke on the phone from time to time. I felt bad that he didn't have anyone in his life. He'd tell me that all his family hated him, and I thought that was really sad. Then one day my mum decided to divorce him. He refused to give her the divorce until I stepped in. I saw that my mum was finally confident enough to make this step and thought it was so cruel that he wouldn't do this for her. I basically told him that I thought it was unfair and I would like him to please do it for me. He agreed and thought that our relationship would improve because he showed me that he really cared about me. Yet even after the divorce, he remained distant and had another child. He only reached out when he needed help with paperwork, writing emails, or other favors. Eventually, he crossed the line by asking me to forge my mum's signature, and I told him I couldn't help him. He called me a stupid bitch like my mother. I told my family he did a lot of reckless things, but this was the first time he ever called me a name. And that's when they told me the truth about his abuse and drug use. I knew he cheated and went through financial issues, but I didn't realize the severity of the situation. I realized that all the times he made it seem like he was just disliked and going through a rough time, he actually was just trying to get sympathy from me. It wasn't that he was hated because he cheated, it was because of all the other crap he did. When I tried calling him, he texted me that I was ungrateful since I couldn't help with one little thing: forge a document. Considering he did me a favor by giving my mum the divorce and I owed him. He blocked my number and his baby mama ended up texting me telling me that all the times he wanted to go out with me, he just used me as an excuse to borrow his sister's car, and he actually just needed the car to drive to his dealer's house for drugs or her house for sex. I confided in my ex about my dad's manipulative behavior and my decision to cut him out of my life when we started getting serious. My ex understood and supported me. I feel like there are 2 versions of my father. The one I saw was reckless and careless, which I chalked up to him being lonely and missing his family, and a more darker version I never had to encounter. I realized I should have said something about all the things he did, but I was just trying to make my dad and my family happy. He helped me get out of my people-pleasing ways. He helped me stick by my decisions and not feel guilty for saying no. He had a great relationship with my family, which made me feel even more confident in our relationship. I felt like I could rely and depend on him. When we started planning our wedding, my ex asked about my dad, but I made it clear that I didn't want him there. He hadn't been a part of my life for 7 years, and I wasn't ready to reconcile with him. I especially not at my wedding. However, one day I came home to find my dad there, invited by my ex to bury the hatchet. I was shocked and devastated. My ex's actions just completely disregarded my feelings and boundaries. I couldn't believe he would do this, knowing how I felt about my dad and without asking me first. My dad made a comment about how glad he was I came to my senses and how excited he was going to go to my wedding, making suggestions that my half-brother could be the ring bearer. I asked my dad to leave and warned him not to contact me again. My ex was furious since he believed I should forgive my dad and work on repairing our relationship. But I don't understand why I should forgive him when he was the one who cut ties with me. More importantly, I couldn't forgive someone who hadn't even apologized for their past actions. He believed that enough time had passed to allow me to work on forgiving him, but I argued that it's not fair that I have to put in the work. My number hasn't changed. My dad hasn't done anything to show me he's changed. Sure, he gave my mum the divorce, but he never apologized for any of the crap he pulled and was happy to go along with a facade of him being a guy who cheated and made a mistake, so he was vilified. I asked him how long he'd been in contact with my dad, and it turns out he'd been in contact with him for 6 months. I felt so disrespected and hurt by my ex's actions. I decided to call off the wedding and told him we needed to rebuild the trust and communication in our relationship before we got married. But my ex refused, saying that it was either we get married or break up. So I ended the engagement. He knew that I had issues with the lack of honesty and communication from so many people in my life. The decisions made on my behalf without regard for my feelings, and the years I spent trying to appease others. And yet, by trying to force my father back into my life, it was like he was deliberately trying to set off my triggers. I still don't understand why he reached out to him if he said he understood my reasons for not wanting my dad there. I still love him, so it hurts, but I thought I did the right thing. Now it doesn't help that I'm getting so much hate from my ex's family, who are calling me names and blaming me for breaking his heart. They're calling me the arsehole for being so sensitive about this and overreacting. With the amount of flack I'm getting, I'm starting to feel like the arsehole. Did I do the right thing? I really want to know, I'd like to talk to Opie's ex in this situation and just ask what went through your mind in that moment. You knew about the dad's past behavior, you knew how she feels about her dad, and then you decide to invite him round to the house after talking to him for 6 months. And trying to get her to forgive him, and then there's the ultimatum as well. I felt like he was extremely generous by offering to work on this and just postpone the marriage at the same time, but he didn't even take that and gave you the ultimatum of marriage or not. That's it. Marriage or break up. That's it. He made his decision right there. He had the opportunity, which, in my opinion, he shouldn't have had anyway, because the thought process in this is just fucking batshit crazy. But the dude continues to double down. But Lair the Vagabond says, not the arsehole. The fact that you are willing to work on this after your dad showed up on your door is insane. Your ex is trash, and it's so good he took himself out before you got married. He was the one who ruined this relationship, not you. Virtual Choir Boy says, not the arsehole. Not telling you that he was in contact with your dad was a lie by omission. In other words, he was lying to you for 6 months. That's no way to start a marriage. Going forward, block the ex and block his family. Come up with a consistent message to respond to people with, and simply repeat the message if they get through to you somehow. Practice saying it out loud so that it's easy to say if you run into them in public. In my head is something like this. Ex's name lied to me for 6 months by hiding the fact that he was talking to someone I despise. I will not marry someone that is so comfortable violating my boundaries. Now please leave me alone and do not contact me anymore. Holiday Beginning says, not the arsehole. Some people don't understand that everyone has different relationships with their parents. He thinks that because he has a good relationship with his parents, that you should have a good relationship with yours. Being in a relationship means that you have to consider the other person's feelings and trust that they are doing what is best for them. You made your feelings and concerns known to him very clearly, but he still decided that he would invite your father anyway. He probably has his reasons for that, but his own feelings should have taken a backseat to your health and well-being. I would block him and anyone else who tries to harass you over this. You are not in the wrong, and you have every right to protect yourself and have a relationship with who you choose to have a relationship with. He also made the mistake of offering up an ultimatum without being prepared for the answer that he didn't want. That's on him. Friendly user says he is testing your boundaries. If you had married him, he would have escalated. Your fiance told you in his own way that what your father did to you and your mother is nothing. That means he would have done the same things your father did to your family. Please stay away from him. He's manipulating you. He didn't even respect your wish to stay away from your disgusting father. I'm happy you didn't have kids with him. Run. And a final comment from Too Old for This Spit, who says, not the arsehole. You made your position clear and your ex stomped on it. Honestly, posts about this type of situation are infuriating. Why can't people accept that when someone cuts a close family member out of their life, it's for a good reason? Nobody makes the decision to permanently remove a toxic person on a whim. When we do it, it's for a cause. The outside world may see one or two petty reasons, but they don't know the mountain of hurt that came before. All they think is, but it's family! Forgive, be the bigger person. When none of it is any of their business, and they should just stay out of it. Pardon my rant. You had good reason to cut off your father, and your ex should have respected your choice. After you get yourself settled, I hope you find someone worthy of you. The OP comes in with our update and says, just a quick update. I'm going back to therapy, but everyone who responded to my post really gave me the reassurance I did the right thing. My dad hasn't come by my apartment, but I'm planning to move out. I've been staying in a sublet apartment since I didn't renew my lease on my last place. Me and my ex plan to move in together. I'm moving in with my sister. She has a den in her house she's converting into a bedroom. It's adding much more time to my commute, but it'll do for now. I'm going to change my number, and I'm not planning on giving it to my ex or his family, but I did want to reach out to his mom. We've been a part of each other's life for a long time, but I wanted her to know this wasn't how I wanted things to be. Of the people who contacted me, she was not aggressive towards me. I should have been more clear in my initial post. She was just very disappointed. My ex's dad, sister, cousins and aunts were the ones harassing me, and I was blocking them, but they were using other numbers, probably belonging to other family members or their partners, and they were making fake profiles online so they can message me through Instagram. Even if a profile is private, you can still receive messages. I called his mum and she was cold, but I explained how hurtful their treatment of me was. She was apologetic, but said she thinks people were just mad and doesn't understand how I could just end our relationship because my ex asked if I wanted to invite my dad. I was confused and told her that he did ask me when we first got engaged. I didn't immediately call off our relationship. I postponed the engagement because he straight up invited my dad, despite me telling him I didn't want him there. I only ended the relationship because he gave me an ultimatum. She asked why I never said anything to anyone, and I told her because no one asked. I just got sent a bunch of hateful messages. Why would I respond to people who treated me like that? She was apologetic and told me she'd make sure her family knew. I told her it didn't really matter, but I just wanted her to know because she was important to me, and I thought maybe I was important to her too. She got really sad after that and started crying, so I guess she does care somewhat. I've gotten a few other texts from people, and they've been very apologetic too. I'm not expecting anything from those who haven't messaged me, but it's nice to know that there are some people who are willing to put their ego aside to apologize. I looked online but couldn't find a response about how long my ex can keep his stuff at my place. When we first broke up, I sent him an email and text, but he never responded. So I tried calling him, emailed and texted him again, and I mailed him a letter letting him know that he had 30 days to get his things with copies of my initial text, and email asking for him to claim his items. I don't know if he got the letter, but yesterday he texted me and asked me if when he came to pick up his things we could talk alone. I was hesitant, but I guess I really just want to put all of this behind me, and I want to make clear to him in person. I told him we could meet in a public place, and he agreed. My brother drove me to a cafe this morning and waited in the outside patio while I went in to meet my ex. According to him, got it into his head that he was going to be making a childhood dream of mine come true, which was having a real relationship with my dad. I did tell him once that when I was younger and asked my dad to consider signing my mum's divorce papers, I hoped we could rebuild our relationship to the point where he could walk me down the aisle and dance with me at my wedding. But that was years ago, before my dad blocked me, before I learned the truth about his physical, mental and emotional abuse towards my mum and siblings, before I really came to terms with how manipulative and careless he'd been towards me. Plus the whole thing was that I wanted to make sure that our relationship got to the point where he could come to my wedding. He didn't put in any effort or work to rebuild our relationship, so it makes no sense for him to just show up out of nowhere. He apologized and admitted that when he saw my reaction, he knew he messed up, but he didn't know how to admit that. So he only gave me that ultimatum as a bluff. He never expected me to actually break off the engagement, but he already dug himself so deep he didn't know what to do. And he said he lied to his family because he knew he was wrong and didn't want his family to hate him. He asked if we could work on our relationship and go to couples therapy. He told me we could start over, but I just said no. I don't think he had good intentions and pointed out, like so many others did, that he went against my wishes and brought my dad back into my life. He was 6 months in contact with an abuser and never told me his ultimatum. The fact that he realized he was wrong and didn't apologize, and the fact that he lied to his family was all very manipulative. A few people pointed out he might have a savior complex. I've been reevaluating our relationship and I feel like that may be the case. Either way, none of that matters anymore. I don't want him in my life. I don't think he'll be trying to come back into my life anytime soon. He cares too much about appearances to try and pull anything. He's supposed to get his things tomorrow. My brother and uncle will be present and they're both big guys and I know he's intimidated by them. I'm not planning to stay in the apartment in the meantime. And the only friend who knows where I'm going is my childhood friend of 20 years. I think that's it. I'm gonna stay single for a while, go to therapy and just stay active and enjoy life. And I'm super glad for OP that, they didn't try to rebuild anything because that is just so concerning. I'm still trying to get into the mindset of like you've heard about your partner's past, you know that their dad was abusive and everything that they've been through, and you still think somehow in your mind that you're going to invite this abuser into their home, into their safe space. It's just messed up. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story does come with an update as well from Fabulous Plenty 5465 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and says, am I the arsehole for refusing to pay for my girlfriend's plane ticket after she decided to stay longer on a trip without me? Throw away because she knows my Reddit. So here's the deal. My 28 male girlfriend, 27 female of 2 years and I planned a 2-week vacation to Italy. I paid for the flights, hotels, everything because I make more than she does, and I wanted it to be a stress-free trip for the both of us. Everything was great until the last day when she tells me she wants to stay longer to find herself and think about our relationship without me. She didn't discuss this with me beforehand and it completely blindsided me. I was hurt and told her if she feels she needs time alone, then she should also be independent financially during this extension of her trip. I said I wouldn't be paying for a new return ticket whenever she decides to come back. Now, she's upset, calling me unsupportive and selfish, and some of our friends are saying I'm being an arsehole because I left her stranded in a foreign country without financial help. So Reddit, am I the arsehole for refusing to pay for a new plane ticket home after she chose to extend her trip without any heads up? Now, to me, you didn't leave her stranded. She had a ticket. She still had that ticket she could have used and chose not to use it. Surely that's on her. And if I'm being completely honest, if I got to this point where you said, and I'm picturing the scenario where she said she wants to find herself and think about our relationship without me, then that would make me think that the relationship is pretty much dead. And why would you fund the relationship that's dead? And anyway, she's got a ticket. She wasn't stranded. Panini says, not the arsehole, she can find herself on her own dime. That's reasonable and fair. And quotes, now she's upset, calling me unsupportive and selfish, and some of our friends are saying I'm being an arsehole because I left her stranded in a foreign country without financial help. And it says, you have been supportive and unselfish. You didn't complain or become difficult. You respected her decision to stay and find herself. Supportive does not necessarily mean you have to pay for her choices. And no, you didn't strand her in a foreign country without financial help. It was her decision to stay behind. All you did was respect her decision. However, it was not your obligation to fund her decision. She's a grown woman, which means she's responsible for her choices and her financial independence. If you invited her on a couples trip, well, the couples trip is over. She decided to stay on her own, that's no longer part of the deal. She has every right to stay behind. She also has the right to pay for that out of her own pocket. Has she been this manipulative before? Red flag. Unusually Scented says, and quotes about finding herself and says, not the arsehole. It sounds like she wanted to find herself with some Italian guys. This would be very clear end of the relationship for me. I strongly suspect you have noticed her drawing away in the last few months. And a final comment from a unique user who says, "Not the arsehole. I'm sorry friend, it sounds like this is the beginning of a breakup with her comments about finding herself and thinking about the relationship. She's not the arsehole for considering breaking up with you, because not all relationships work out, but she became the flaming arsehole when she wanted you to bankroll her extended overseas holiday, while she ponders whether or not she wants to keep seeing you or not. This will likely be difficult. Try to see this as an opportunity to weed out who your real friends are, as any sane person who is actually your friend will be outraged on your behalf. Even if you were Bill Gates levels of rich and the money meant nothing to you, it would be insanely rude for someone to ask you to bankroll their breakup with you." The OP comes in with her update and says thank you to all the people who responded, especially the early ones who gave me some outside verification of me probably not being the arsehole. I don't feel comfortable saying I'm completely blameless here because you're only getting one side of the story and I need to take responsibility for my part in this whole thing such as it is. But I guess I never realized how good my girlfriend was at making me feel like unreasonable shit was normal and rational and that I was the crazy one. So here's the update. We're both back in America now, so she's packing her shit to go stay with her family for a bit until she can find a new place. Soon after I posted, it was time to go to the airport, so I did, without her. I'm one of those people who arrives really early because I never think I'll get to the gate in time because everything that could go wrong probably would go wrong. It never does, but especially with how I was feeling my luck was going, I didn't want to push it. I was there for about an hour by myself, mulling things over and talking to my mum. I looked at a couple of responses to this post, but I didn't trust that I wouldn't lose it if I started responding. I definitely didn't want to burst into tears while I was in the airport. As I was talking to my mum, my girlfriend showed up. I guess she thought I was bluffing, but had a rude awakening when the hotel staff kicked her out of the room because I'd only paid through that day. I took no small amount of satisfaction in this, not gonna lie. She had been so concerned about the plane ticket that she didn't even stop to think about where she was going to stay. As many of you guessed, she met someone while we're in Italy. She was quick to tell me that it was just a physical attraction and that they hadn't done anything. She had his ads and was wanting to see if it'd go anywhere. I guess that's what I get for not feeling well and wanting to stay in one night while she went out to explore. Obviously, I told her things were over between us, even though she tried to make it sound like nothing had happened. The fact was A, I couldn't feel like I could trust her when she said that, and B, I don't really want to be with someone who feels like it's okay to still keep her options open when she's been in a monogamous relationship for the past 2 years. The flight home was awkward as fuck, and she tried really hard to give another pitch for why we should stay together on the drive home from the airport. I think as we got closer to home, reality started settling in and she realized she'd just thrown a lot away. So yeah, I'm jet lagged and physically and emotionally exhausted, and I'm just kinda numb at this point. Finally, I didn't see all the comments, as there are 2,500 at the time of this update. But to the few that were downvoted into oblivion who said this was fake because I hadn't updated in several hours. Fuck you. I was looking for reasonable dissenting opinions that might have helped me make sense of this situation, and you're accusing me of making this up for random internet points. Believe it or not, my priority was not to tell a bunch of strangers on the internet how my world was falling apart around me. I know it's easy to think that these people aren't real and their struggles are meaningless because screens divide us, but ironically, you're the arseholes. Ooh, the old switcheroo at the end there. And that one comment saying about finding Italian guys, it did have me thinking, I thought, ooh, has she found someone? And it turned out to be the case. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What would you have done if you was OP? Let us know your thoughts. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.